We'll stay there until 7:38, and then pack things up, get someone else to come down and drive us home, and everything will be good.
Right.
Oh my
that's
God!
incredible.
We're not. We're right in South. I've walked home a lot of times.
Yeah,
last game against Monday night, they lose. I'm disheartened walking home, and instead of going back to my dad's truck waiting for someone to pick us up, I just walked the 2 miles home, just in despair.
Charlie Brown walk.
Yeah, Charlie Brown walk, exactly. Went and went to CVS, bought a pint of Ben & Jerry's, and crushed it like a very sad man.
Nice. This is the most intriguing thing I think we've ever.
No,
talked about on
I
the show.
thought I knew what the culture was, but then I see these videos from Eagles tailgates, namely those Buffalo Bills tailgates, when people are crushing people through tables.
Bills Mafia.
Yeah, where I thought I went hard during tailgates. Obviously, I'm like G-rated compared to some of these.
Yeah, last year at school, 2 of my good friends were Buffalo Bills fans.
Okay.
So they came down for the Bills home game last year, which was Shady McCoy's return.
Oh, right.
It's basically 1 year ago from this month because it was the day after the Army-Navy game.
Okay.
And they were all into our tailgate. They thought it was the greatest thing ever. My friend who was from Buffalo was thinking, this is just like what it's like back home in Buffalo.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, you know what? If I don't go down, I need a full report out of you when you go to the Clancy tailgate on the 27th.
I might have to periscope myself just
Absolutely.
to show myself from beginning of tailgate to the end of tailgate.
It's like on Twitter now. Me at the beginning of 2016 and me at the end of 2016.
Yeah, if I knew how to use Snapchat, I would tell you how to do it. I would tell you how to do a story. And
because I know there's a couple other big Eagles tailgates, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that there might be even sponsored by casinos and different things like that, or other people that are sort of maybe famous on Twitter that have their own big thing going on. But if you're from South Philly, this is the place to go.
Now, do you ever go to other tailgates there or no?
Yeah, there's one guy that we hang out with once in a while. Our section is we're one section over from each other, and at the game itself, we're in section 219. I think they're in section 220, 221, and they're the people we meet up at halftime with. We go to the same beer stand at halftime, section 220.
Yeah,
we don't wait in line for beer. This lady knows who we are. I'm serious. If the line was say 10 people long at this little beer stand, I would just walk to the side and say, "Give me 6," and she would just put out 6, and I'd give her $60, $70, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if the president's in line waiting for her. She'll come over and take care of us first.
Holy smokes, man. You are connected.
This is incredible, man. Not only is he an Eagles guy, but he's also a Sixers guy as well. And on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about how he went to the airport the day a certain Croatian came to town for the first time. Yes, we're talking about the homie Dario Saric on the other side. You're listening to the Broad Street Line coming to you live on 106.5 FM, WPPM, LP, Philadelphia.
Tonight, I just wanna take you high, fly eyes up in the sky. Let's set this party on fire. Players, put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out. Pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Shut up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Designer mix. Inglewood's finest shoes. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to get the color red, the blue.
Welcome back to the Broad Street Line. Roy Burton, Chris Domingo, and special guest Shamus Clancy talking about an off-air about the Eagles tailgates and how we don't have quite the same thing when it comes to the Sixers and the Phillies.
We soon will, though.
We soon will, because thanks in part to a certain man from Croatia known as the homie. Now I need to ask you about going to the airport the day Dario Saric arrived in Philadelphia. Now, how did that happen? How did that come about?
So, I believe Kyle Scott of Crossing Broad, the website, the Big Philly blog, was following. He was contact with Dario's agent.
Okay.
And it made it clear that he was coming over today. I think the flight might have been from Spain, a connecting flight from Turkey through Spain.
Okay.
And he was made aware of which flight it was. And Jim Adair does most of their Sixers coverage on the Crossing Broad, and he relayed to Jim, said, "Hey, go down to the airport, check everything out, put it on Facebook Live." They did it on Crossing Broad Facebook Live. So Jim texts me, knowing that I'm also sort of the Dario guy for Liberty Ballers. Says, "Seamus, I'm going down to the airport. Do you want to go?" Absolutely. He goes, "Okay, I'm in an Uber now. We'll come by and pick you up." So they scoop me up on my corner in South Philly. We go up on I-95 South, head to the airport. going through there. We go through the waiting room, and then we're in this room. It's like the international waiting room. It looks like we're in like the United Nations building or something like that. It's like where everyone is coming from. If you're going from overseas home, you're going through that room.
Right, the customs room?
Yeah, the customs room, yeah. So we're waiting there. We end up waiting there for maybe 2 hours before he gets there. And the entire time we're watching all these kids come back from, study abroad and some sort of Barcelona or Real Madrid jersey. Everyone's coming back wearing a soccer jersey. Their families greeting them. They might not have seen them in months. They're like, oh, what are you guys here for? Oh, we're waiting for a basketball player. And we beat like John Clark there. We beat John Clark there.
Because John Clark is the gold standard or the silver standard now for
the airport arrival.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we were there before the news cams were all there, but as soon as things were winding down, we saw some NBC 10 cameras, and eventually Clarky showed up.
So like did you I guess when Dario arrived, what was the did you want to fall back? Did you want to get it in?
I got in the scrum. So say if he was walking down this lane, and you're not allowed to walk in this area unless you're coming from off this flight, into the customs room. So there's a huge scrum waiting for him right there between me and maybe a handful of other TV reporters trying to ask him questions, different things like that, as he's being moved very quickly between him, his girlfriend, and a few Sixers officials, I guess, or security officials, trying to get through that area into an elevator and get out of the scrum.
Okay.
But for those 35, 40 seconds, it was pretty hectic.
It's crazy that because again, we've been waiting for this guy for years,
and we see it come undone or happen live. I'm like, what is this right now? Like, I mean, you're seeing this, and it's like weirdly organic, where you're just like, this is the guy who has loved Dario Saric, and you're like, he's meeting him. It's like Say Anything. It's like he's met his true love.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, you and Jim were the first guys there. It's again, we talked about how the blogs or people look for the blogs.
I mean, they're the crafty people, the blog people. So they're looking for the extra advantage to get their advantage on the mainstream media. Right. So Jim and Kyle Scott go down there. They track the flight. I've remembered from forever. Lufthansa 426 was the flight. It reminds me of Goodfellas because that's the heist on Lufthansa. So that's why I always think of those two situations. But it was just absurd.
And then you've been following, Dario. You are the unofficial Dario historian. We'll probably write the book about Dario Saric at some point after we win title number 3. When did you first start following his career? And was it before he was drafted, or was
it actually dates back to 2013. He had his name in the draft in 2013. The Sixers had the 11th pick that year, and he's someone that was projected. It wasn't a very strong draft. He was probably the first year he was eligible for the draft in 2013. Okay, and he's someone that was projected to go in the teens. The Sixers didn't really know what they were going to do. Since they had Sam Hinkie, no one really knew what he was going to do yet. Right. They ended up taking Michael Carter-Williams, and Dario, before the draft, had ended up taking his name out of the draft. But he was someone I started liking in the pre-draft process. 6'9", 6'10", reminded me a little bit of Lamar Odom, passing genes. He had the high basketball IQ. I thought he'd be someone interesting to watch. Ultimately takes his name out of the draft. Mm-hmm. Next year, puts his name in the draft, ends up staying in the draft. Then a whole draft process. He seems like someone that might go, maybe in the 7, 8, 9 range. Right. And ultimately, he signs a contract with Anadolu Ifis of the Turkish Basketball League, which he says he'll stay there for 2 more years, which pushes him a little bit further down in the draft. From what I saw, it seemed like the Celtics were very into him. So he's someone I think the Celtics, if he wasn't going overseas for 2 more years, the Celtics might have taken number 6 in the draft over Marcus Smart. So luckily, or depending on your perspective, he falls to the Sixers at number 12 through a trade with the Orlando Magic.
Right, and then so he comes here. He doesn't become a Sixer. Doesn't play for the Sixers for a couple of years. Like, were you how many of his games were you watching overseas?
And I think what solidified my connection to them was then at this time I was interning for the Philadelphia Daily News, and I'm always pitching crazy basketball articles to the various editors there, and they're shooting them down because they're just absurd, blogger basketball things they don't want to cover. Right. And there's the FIFA Basketball World Championship was going on at this point, and I think late August, early September of 2014. Just a few months after he'd been drafted, I pitched. My editor at the time was Chuck Balisman, was my editor at the Daily News. Okay. I said, "Hey, the guy that Sixers drafted, Dario Saric, is playing FIFA Basketball World Championship. Is it cool if I do a write-up on him?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Great." So, and it's the game. Sark ends up getting like 6 teeth knocked out of his mouth. Okay, yeah. And the play, he gets, Andres Nocioni elbows him, gets teeth knocked out of his mouth, starts bleeding. He goes around and hits a corner 3 right after it. So that was sort of the cult of Dario. I think started from there, and just ultimately when I started writing for Liberty Ballers that season, my first post was a breakdown of his, how he'd been playing that season for Anadolu Ifis, and from there I probably watched, between Croatian national games and his club team games, I probably watched between 25 or so games that season.
What?
Wow.
And didn't go into like their playoffs and the Turkish basketball league. I probably watched the majority of my games there. Maybe eight or nine of those games were in the playoffs that year and the 2015 summer.
And was that the year that the homie nickname was brought about? Because
Yes,
Joel
it was.
Embiid,
A lot of people have, like.
I credit you.
No, I thought it was
a
you.
lot of people credit me there. Someone will say like, "Oh, shout out to Mark Zimov calling Dario the homie. Shout out to Shamus Clancy for starting." And I was like, actually, Joel Embiid started this. So this is this is how long ago it was. The trip of people that went over there were Michael Carter-Williams, Brett Brown, Nerlens Noel, and Joel Embiid went to go watch Dario play.
Right.
In this World Championships, and they took a picture together, and like Joel, it's like out here watching the homie Dario Saric.
Right.
And ever since then, people have attributed this name to me. I'm not going to say I didn't make it, but it wasn't me. It was Joel.
How did it stick though? Like I mean, how many?
the power of Joel.
Because like
I give a lot of credit to Max Rappaport, who at the time was the Sixers web director of sorts, or social media coordinator, who would use that frequently on Twitter, and his corresponding write-ups on Dario's overseas play for Sixers.com. So I think he is more instrumental in popularizing it than I was.
Because like, what if Nerlens Noel would have said the homie?
Yeah, if Michael Carter-Williams says it, no one's going to remember it.
We'd be like, okay, why are you calling him the homie?
This is the summer after Joel had his whole situation with LeBron, Kim Kardashian, Rihanna, so he was already a Twitter power player at this point.
No, literally for years on our other show, we would say like Shamus Clancy is responsible for the homie nickname, and we've given you credit, and we will continue to do so. Because that story sounds better than Joel Embiid.
Absolutely.
But no, it's just amazing how that nickname is now stuck. Now he's the homie. Now you hear
Allie uses it all the time on there.
He said, "Homie, don't play that." I was like, no, you need the in there. Like I mean, it's two words.
No, he's the homie.
The homie, not because sometimes they say homie. I'm like, no, it's the homie.
Now we have like a minute or so to go. Let me just ask you, where does the homie fit into the grand scheme of things when it comes to the Sixers? Because obviously Ben's coming back, and Ben's 6'10", and whether he plays power forward or whatever have you, he's going to need some minutes, maybe some minutes at the 4. Obviously you have Joel Embiid, and whatever you do with Noel and Okafor. How does Dario fit into that equation?
In an ideal situation for the Sixers, or best case scenario, they're looking at a team like the late 2000s Lakers, where they made the finals 3 straight years in 08, 09, and 2010, and sort of Lamar Odom's role for that team, where they had 2 starting big men with Bynum and Pau Gasol. Whether you want to compare them to maybe Embiid and Simmons starting at the 4 and 5.
Okay, and
he's an elite role player off the bench, can handle the offense when Simmons isn't on the court. Someone that can distribute the ball. Great rebounders. His rebounding rate's like the same as Noel was last year, and he's playing the 3 and 4, whereas Noel played the 5 last year.
Have you been happy with his play so far? Well, like, I mean, the last couple of games, I mean, that was peak Dario. Like, that's what I think.
Yeah, the fiery contributor off the bench that's going to someday have like a 22 and 10 and 6 game against the Celtics in a big playoff game down the road or something like that. He's been averaging, I think, 17 and 8 in the last 4 games, shooting like 51, 45, and 81 for his shooting splits.
Because I think when the Sixers will be good, I think Dario will be in that crunch time lineup.
He's not going to almost like their play obviously isn't similar, but the way Manu Ginobili never really started for the Spurs, but was always in their crunch time lineup, or the way Andre Iguodala doesn't necessarily start for the Warriors, but he's in their quote unquote death lineup.
Croatian Iggy.
Oh God! I mean, they do offensively. They have some similarities, I think, between the point forward stuff.
Much better shooter than I thought he was.
Yeah, when the Sixers first drafted him, he couldn't shoot. It just like one of Rich Hoffman from the Philly Voice has always said this about prospects: their swing skill. Like, what's the thing that's going to take them from being a middling prospect or rotational player to an above average player or a very, very good player? And for Dario, I think it's certainly been his shooting. It's improved incrementally over the last few years. So he shot his last year in Turkey, shot I think 42% from 3.
Okay,
he's currently at 39.3% for the season, which was pretty good, but his field goal percentage is basically the same thing. So it's not great. The last few games he shot, over the last 4 games where he's really improved himself, shooting 45.8% from 3.
Nice. I wish we could
talk. Hopefully it sticks.
Yeah, definitely. I wish we could talk more, Dario, but we do have to get out of here. You've been listening to the Broad Street Line on WPPM LP Philadelphia. We were joined this week by the great Shamus Clancy. Be sure to follow him on Twitter, Shamus_Clancy. Read his work over at Liberty Ballers and your personal blog. What's your blog? Darko and Stormy?
Yeah, just if you go on my, you just go on my Twitter and you'll find it.
All right, Darko and Stormy. Check out Shamus Clancy on Twitter. Read his work at Liberty Ballers. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you very much for having me. Loved it. Great time.
Stuff. And we'll be back with you next week, 10 a.m. here on 106.5 FM. Mr. Domingo, send everybody out, please.
Adios, amigos.
See you next week, everybody.